Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Chapter 1, Sociology and Society. And our topic is Sociology and Common Sense Knowledge. We have seen how sociological knowledge is different from theological and philosophical observations. Likewise, sociology is different from common sense observations. The common sense explanations are generally based on what may be called naturalistic and individualistic explanation. A naturalistic explanation for behavior rests on the assumption that one can really identify natural reasons for behavior. Sociology thus breaks away from the both common sense observations and the ideas as well as from philosophical thought. It does not always or even generally lead to specular results, but meaningful and unsuspected connections can be reached only by sifting through masses of connections. Great advances in sociological knowledge have been made, generally incrementally and only rarely by a dramatic breakthrough. Sociology has a body of concepts, methods, and data. No matter how loosely coordinated, this cannot be substituted by common sense. Common sense is unreflective since it does not question its own origins. Or, in other words, it does not ask itself, why do I hold this view? The sociologist must be ready to ask of any of our belief about ourselves, no matter how cherished. Is this really so? Both the systematic and questioning approach of sociology is derived from a broader tradition of scientific investigation. This emphasis on the scientific procedures can be understood only if we go back in time and understand the context or social situation within which the sociological perspective emerged, as sociology was greatly influenced by the great developments in modern science. Let us have a very brief look at what intellectual ideas went into the making of sociology. And we turn to the next topic, the intellectual ideas that went into the making of sociology. Influenced by scientific theories of the natural evolution and findings about pre-modern societies made by early travelers, colonial administrators, sociologists, and social anthropologists sought to categorize societies into types and to distinguish stages in social development. These features reappear in the 19th century in works of early sociologists Auguste Comte, Karl Marx, and Herbert Spencer. Efforts were therefore made to classify different types of societies on that basis. For instance, type of pre-modern societies such as hunters and gatherers, pastorals and agrarian and non-industrial civilization. Types of modern societies such as the industrialized societies. Such an evolutionary vision assumed that the West was necessarily the most advanced and civilized. Non-Western societies were often seen as the barbaric and less developed. The Indian colonial experience has to be seen in this light. Indian sociology reflects this tension which go far back to the history of British colonialism and the intellectual and ideological response to it. Perhaps because of this backdrop, Indian sociology has been particularly thoughtful and reflexive of its practice. You will be engaging with Indian sociological thought, its concerns and practice in greater detail in the book Understanding Society. Darwin's ideas about organic evolution were a dominant influence on the early sociological thought. Society was often compared with living organisms, and efforts were made to trace its growth through stages comparable to those of organic life. This way of looking at society as a system of parts, each part playing a given function, influenced the study of social institutions like the family or the school and structures such as stratification. We mention this here because the intellectual ideas that went into the making of sociology have a direct bearing on how sociology studies empirical reality. The Enlightenment and European intellectual movement of the late 17th and 18th centuries emphasized reason and individualism. There was also great advancement of scientific knowledge and a growing conviction that the methods of the natural sciences should and could be extended to the study of human affairs. For example, poverty, so far seen as the natural phenomena, began to be seen as a social problem caused by human ignorance or exploitation. Poverty, therefore, could be studied and redressed. One way of studying this was through the social survey that was based on the belief that the human phenomena can be classified and measured. You will be discussing social survey in chapter 5. Thinkers of the early modern era were convinced that progress in knowledge promised the solution to all social ills. For example, Auguste Comte, the French scholar, 1789 to 1857, considered to be the founder of the sociology, believed that sociology would contribute to the welfare of humanity. Now let us wind up the session, and thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcast.